My sister is my biological mother. Where do I even begin? All of you, everybody watched my last TikTok wants a story time. It's gonna be long, it's gonna be a few parts because it goes on, but let's take you to the very beginning. I'm currently living in the United States of America. I am from Canada. And during that process to immigrate, I worked with a lawyer and had to gather a lot of documents to do this process. And during this process, I required something called a long form birth certificate. And if you're like me from Canada, you might not know what that is because I've only ever known of a short form birth certificate that had my own information, my birth date, my birth location, and my name. That was it. Apparently, the US immigration system needs a long form. They need to know who your birth mother is and your birth father and all that jazz. So I inquired to Canada about that. Found some forms online. I filled out, put all the information inside of it, submitted it. 3 hours later, I get a phone call from Canada saying, hey, there are some inconsistencies on your request for a long form birth certificate. They asked who my birth mother was. I said it again on the phone, told them the same information I put on the sheet, and they met back with, did she have another name? Was there another name she went by? And that's when I realized I realized I'm an idiot at that little portion of that conversation because I put my mother's married name, not her maiden name. And I apologized and I gave them my mother's maiden name. He responded with, sir, that is still not correct. I asked them if they could tell me who was listed on my birth certificate. That's when my whole life, just everything sunk in the pit of my stomach. They said a name who I've known for 34 years of my life to be my older sister, and she is now my birth mother. Yeah, I've got a lot of questions, and I've got answers. I've discovered everything, and I'll make more parts to go over that. But to give you guys a little bit of a teaser, I have a younger brother and an older younger sister. All three of us are kids of who we thought was our oldest sister. My younger brother, my older youngest sister, we are all kids of who we thought was our older sister. And to break down what that means to you guys real quick, because I had comments about it. I grew up thinking I had 4 older sisters, which obviously isn't the case. Now, I just found out the news from Canada, birth certificate people, that my birth mother is my sister. First person I called on the way home was my older youngest sister. I have tears running down my face. She answers the phone and it was a look I've never seen before. She looked concerned, but it was a look like he knows. I look at her and I said, did you know? I said it again, did you know? And she said, Aunt, I've known for a while. And she had tears running down her face. And I was like, why didn't you tell me? Like, you know how much I love the truth of everything. Like, why didn't you tell me? She starts crying and she tells me that that's her mom too. You guys probably don't know how hard it is to know that there's somebody who shares more than just, you know, being a sister. She went through the same thing that I'm going through and had no one to talk to. She never told us. She never told me. Does my brother know? And she said he doesn't. And I said, I have to tell him. She also found out that our brother is also the child of who we thought was our older sister. Finding out from Canada that my mom isn't my mom and it's my older sister was tough in itself. The way my sister found out that she was her daughter is in a malicious way. In an argument with our older biological mother, she said that I'm your mother, and consequently told her that I'm also her son and our brother's also her son, in a malicious way. And a lot of people in the comments like, oh, you guys probably had a great relationship your whole life, like as sisters, you know? It was probably still happy. No. My relationship with my older sister, my biological mother, never existed. She was a terrible person to me. And I'm not going to get into the details because everybody's going through different things, and I don't want to bring up anybody else's kind of problems and stuff they're dealing with, but she was not nice. Next part, I'll talk about how I confronted my mom about it. My mom who raised me. Till then.
Do something with it.
It's just money coming to me easily. Money coming in and needing me. Money coming in repeatedly. Money coming, it's just money coming. It's just money coming to me frequently. Money coming in to be with me. Money coming in secretly. Money coming, it's just money coming. It's just money coming to me always. Money coming in all day. Money coming in all paid. Money coming, it's just money coming. It's just money coming to me frequently. Money coming in to be with me.
Welcome back to All Things Jenny. I'm Jenny. So I'm at the shop today. Don't worry about what's all behind. Today I have a crazy story for you guys about this young man who literally found out that his sister was actually his mother this whole time for so many years, and then his mom, who he thought was his mom, was his grandma this whole time. And guess how he found out all of this? So let's take a look at the story. My opinion will be at the very end of the story. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
Out that not just me, but my younger brother and my older sister, we are all kids of who we thought was our older sister. The comments here keep saying, how did you not know she was pregnant? Come on, this doesn't seem real. We are all 1 year apart. I'm 34. My younger brother is 33, and my younger sister is 35. We are almost perfectly 1 year apart, minus a month or so. We wouldn't have known. I called my mom who raised me. I confronted her and asked her, I said, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me? She didn't know what I was talking about. I had tears running down my face, and I said, Mom, you are not my mom, biologically. And that's when she started crying. She closed her door, and she's like, I never lied to you. Never lying and never telling the truth are the same thing. They are the same thing. You never told me. Is it true that my older sister is my mother? She said yes. And I asked about my sister and my brother. She confirmed it. We are all kids of our older sister. That's when I started freaking out. I said, Mom, I need to know right now, when I called that birth certificate place and I put those information in, they never questioned my birth father. They never questioned it. And that's when she told me that they don't know my father. There was no birth father listed. And I asked about my brother. I'm like, do you know his dad? She said no. I asked about my sister. Do you know her dad? She said, I don't know. So we are 3 kids, 1 year apart, with 3 different fathers potentially. They don't know who they are. I don't know how this could happen. All this did was open up more questions. I hate being lied to. I hate secrets. It's like for me, I'm like a cat with a mouse. If there's a task in front of me or a goal or something I want, I will get it. And I will get the truth as to who my birth father is, what this story is, and why the lies are still happening. I kept this all to myself for a few days. My birth certificate arrived. My mother listed on there is my older sister. My birth father, not listed. There is no name. I have more questions than answers. I'm still being lied to. I'm still being lied to. During this time, I've contacted my older sisters. I use older sisters for purpose of talking because it just is what is normal to me. They are my aunts. Nobody could tell me a single thing about those 3 years that their sister, my biological mother, had 3 kids. No one can tell me how, why, when, what. Still lies. As far as I'm concerned, there's no way they didn't know. They know who my father is, but they won't tell me. My parents who raised me are my grandparents. They, even though they lied to me for many years, they took on 3 young kids, 1 year apart, when they didn't have to. They gave us a life that we wouldn't have had And when I tell you that we wouldn't have had, because growing up, my biological mother also had 2 other kids that I've known to be my niece and nephew. So it turns out I don't just have 1 half sister and 1 half brother. I have 2 half brothers and 2 half sisters. And I've seen how they were raised by the woman who would have been my biological mother, and how bad, in retrospect, compared to my life, that my parents gave me. And it hurts knowing that my niece and nephew got the shit into the stick. Just awful. And I don't even know if they know that I know. I want to find my birth father. I need to find all this information out. I take an ancestry DNA test. My sister, she takes an ancestry DNA test. First thing we do is we check. We confirmed it. We do not have the same father. We checked both of our DNAs to see if our parents are related in terms of our mother and father. They were both negative. There was nothing happening inside the family, which is a relief. It is a relief, because a lot of people in the comments were putting comments like that, and I thought the same thing for a very long time. But it's not. We have separate fathers that aren't related to us in terms of family, chromosome, DNA, all that jazz. Now begins a very long and interesting turn of events. More family secrets uncovered, and the journey to find my birth father. I do not have a relationship with my biological mother. All the comments telling me, go reach out to her, ask who your biological father is. I haven't talked to my sister, my birth mother, in years. She's a pathological liar. She's been mean to me, mean to my parents, mean to everybody. She was in and out of the court system, had a lot of problems with legality and everything like that. So the fact that I would take her word is very slim. Maybe I will eventually reach out to her, but right now, I do not believe that she would give me the answer I want anyways. So I reach out to the people I believe would know. My mom, my dad, my older sisters, my aunts. And they all said the same thing. That was a really rough time period in their lives, and they don't want to talk about it, and they don't know. So then I asked my mom and dad, does my brother, does my sister and I, do we share the same father? She said no. My mom said we do not. How can one be true and the other be false? How can you say we don't share the same father but then not know who they are? I did take an ancestry DNA test. I tested on GED Match to confirm that my sister and I's parents are not related. We share different fathers. I know people were asking how I did that. And because my half-sister did an ancestry DNA test at the same time, we were able to rule out which side of the family was which. We shared the same matches on our mother's side, but we had different matches on our other side. So that's when I made a thread on Reddit. I made a post. And just like you guys, I had an overwhelming amount of support from a company called DNA Angels, telling that I should reach out to them because they can find my birth father. They accepted my case. They start building out my father's family tree, and they tell me, please don't look into it while we're doing it and make any assumptions, because things will change as they build the tree out. Me, I'm impatient. I want to know right away. So I started following meticulously while they're doing the tree. Started saying some last names that had some relation to me, pretty close. And then I started looking up and Googling those names. And I found one of them to be a very, very influential, powerful person in the Canadian justice system as a relation to me. And then I started thinking about the stories of my sister, going in and out of courts, legal issues, and all that stuff, that maybe there was some type of connection. So for days, I was looking through these results and looking into it. This man would have been much older than my mother would have been when I was born. And people are asking, my mom had my sister at 16. My mom had me at 17. My mom had my brother at 18. We are exactly 1 year apart. This individual that was close to my relation in terms of DNA, I had some thoughts. Somebody abused their power. Fortunately, I was wrong. It was wrong. They continue to build out that ancestry tree of my father's side. That person is not my father, but we are related. While they're building out my family tree, I come across a name who shares DNA, a very high percentage, on my mom's side, who would have to be DNA-wise my mom's half-sister. My mom never had a sister. This individual passed away a few years ago. I found the obituary page. I look at the obituary page talking about this woman's parents, and I noticed that that woman's father shares the same name as my grandmother's father, my mom who raised me's dad. They share the same name. It's a rare name, and it's a rare kind of spelling for it, an abbreviation. And it said that in the obituary. So I started thinking, oh my God, my mom who raised me, her parents got divorced at a young age. And I'm wondering if this was the reason they got divorced, is that he had an affair with another woman, and she has a half-sister she never knew that lived 20 minutes from us. I started looking into it, and I contacted my mom about it. I called my mom to ask about this mysterious woman who appeared on my ancestry with enough DNA to be classified as my mom's half-sister. They were born in the same area, they were born the same year, and they share a father that has the same first name. So many coincidences. My mom said to me, this could not have happened. I have no idea who this woman is. I know my dad did not have an affair on my mom, and that was not the reason for their divorce. I kept saying DNA doesn't lie. There has to be some weird connection you don't know about. During this time of talking to my mom, the DNA angels were building out my biological father's family tree. They're continuing to build this out, and I noticed how big it's gotten. It's huge. People all the way to 1800s working down to find who he is, which prompted me to ask them a question. I had to tell them a story. My grandfather, my dad who raised me, he was brought to Canada from Rotterdam, Holland, by some random people. I don't know what affiliation they had to his family, but he was brought to Canada, I believe at 5 years old from the stories he was told. And he lived with an adoptive family in Canada. He never knew his biological parents. He never knew anybody's side from his biological family. And I told the story to the DNA angels. A few hours later, I got a message from my angel working on the case. Bless her heart, she's incredible. She said that my story touched her heartstrings a little bit, and she decided to take a look at my paternal and maternal matches on my mother's side. And it turns out that person that I thought was my mom's half-sister is my dad's half-sister, my grandfather's half-sister, which is absolutely crazy because I never ever even considered the fact that he had any family here, considering the story he was told as a child and the story we were all told from him. But it turns out he had a half-sister living in the same area as him, and a potential biological parent. Now the question stems, why was he in an adoptive family if he had a family living here? Why was he born in Holland and brought here by some random people? The whole story is becoming a mystery with everything, not just my biological family, not my upbringing, all the stuff that I found out, but I'm also going to be able to get some answers about my dad's side of the family, my grandfather, because he knew nothing. I then get a message back from the DNA angels. They gave me two surnames that could potentially be my birth father. I got a message from the DNA angels that are working on my case to find my biological father. They sent me two surnames that could potentially be his last name. I did something I thought I would never do. I messaged my nephew, who I've grown to learn is actually my youngest half-brother. I love this kid. I shoot him a message and I ask him does your mom know these two names? I get a message almost immediately back that says, no, she does not. So I wanted to test the waters a little bit and see how much he knew. While we were talking about my ancestry DNA results in terms of my heritage, where I'm from, and some theories that I had, I decided to come out of the gate and just ask him. I said, did you know that you're my half-brother and that we share the same mother? And that's when he gave me a response I was not expecting. He said, I've always known. I thought everybody did too. What? My little nephew. He's always known that I was his half-brother. He thought that everybody was just existing and living what we were told and acting that out in real life. That he was my nephew. Our biological mother was just my sister. He then messages me back, which is a direct message from his mother, our mother, biological mother, that says, if you want to know your birth father, this is his name. He sends the name to me. Coincidentally, at the exact same time, within 30 seconds, I get a text message from my mom who raised me, my grandmother. I get a message from her that says the same name, and it says, if you come across this name, maybe that's somebody I remember. And I started thinking to myself, were they lying to me that whole time, saying they had no idea who this was? Because simultaneously, they both messaged me the same name. Only theory I could think about is they're in cahoots, they're talking to each other on the phone, and the messaging's happening through my youngest half-brother's phone. Between that and then my mom's phone, messaging me. I then take that said name and I send it to the DNA angels. A few minutes later, I get a response, and they ask me, where did I get this name from? I told them my birth mother and my mom who raised me. They responded with, they are lying to you. I asked why. They said that name does not appear anywhere in my family tree on my father's side, nowhere in lineage, no cousins. There's no even remotely close connection to a name that resembles that. It's impossible. They are still lying to me. When the DNA angels that are working on my case messaged me back and said that the name that they provided cannot be my birth father's name because it doesn't align with any of my matches, anything in the history that they built out, giving them a different answer. I messaged my nephew, I guess my youngest half-brother, back, and I said that cannot be my birth father. I got a reply back instantly, only from the person I believe is my birth mother. She responded with, Anth, that is 100% your birth father, along with a screenshot of his face. I told her, DNA does not lie, and that is not my birth father. I then got a message from DNA angels with a full name, a first and last name of who they believe is my birth father. It was the name that I provided to my nephew, or my youngest half-brother, saying, do you know these names? And his mom said no. That person is my biological father. And to support that case, the DNA angels also sent me a picture of his profile on Facebook with my biological mother listed as his friend. I sent that over. I didn't get a reply. I sent that to my mom. She just responded with seriously with an exclamation point. I don't know why. I don't know why they lied, but there could be a situation where my biological mother didn't know who my father was, only adding to the fact that she was not the most stable person growing up. She ended up having 5 kids with 5 different fathers. 3 of us were born 1 year apart that were raised by my grandparents, who are my mom and my dad that raised me. They are the greatest, regardless of them lying to me about who my birth father and my birth mother were. They raised me and made me who I am today. And then during this time, my biological mother also had 2 other kids. Because I thought she was my older sister, those 2 other kids grew up around me as them being my niece and nephew. which turns out that they are my half-sister and my half-brother. In total, my biological mother had 5 kids from 5 different fathers. But I found my biological father, and I sent him a message. Everything you're watching is unraveling in real time. I recently sent him a message because I just found out who he was. I will show a screenshot with obviously sensitive stuff taken out, but I found my biological father. And during this process, you all know that I told you guys a story about my grandfather, my dad who raised me, who was brought here from Holland to Canada, who didn't know his family. Well, I've uncovered a lot of truths and a lot of theories and a lot of things that will make a very compelling and great story. And I would love to take you guys on the journey of finding my grandfather, my dad's biological family. Did my biological father respond? Everybody's asking. I sent him a message November 12th as well as added him on Facebook. And to date, I have not gotten a response, nor has he added me, except I went to his profile last night just to look at it to see if he's posted anything new or if he's active again. But something leads me to believe he is active. Because when I first found this profile with the help of the DNA Angels, there was one account added that was my biological mother's profile. However, when I looked at the account again, there is 2 accounts added, both of my biological mother. So something tells me that these 2 people are in communication, and he is active enough to at least accept a friend request from a familiar face. Now, due to my biological mother's history, I feel like she is feeding him some story about how he is probably going to get a message from a random person who is claiming to be his son and telling him not to accept me. Or they're having a conversation about, hey, you know that time we hooked up? Well, I got pregnant and had a kid. I don't know what that conversation is, because I'm still not ready to reach out to my biological mother and tell her that, hey, I want to, not ready for that. Just due to my history and how we've always been, I do not think that would be the best course of action at this moment. But there is definitely some kind of cahoots going on between my birth father and my birth mother, and I'm in the middle not getting an answer. It doesn't make sense that there's 2 profiles added on his Facebook when prior to that there was only 1. He is definitely in communication with my birth mother. I have a few more questions now. I wait for a response from either my birth mother or my biological father reaching out to me or accepting my messages. I'll be taking you guys on that journey of my grandfather, helping him find his biological family and the story of his whole life, because it is very compelling and interesting, and it takes place post-World War II, a journey from Holland to Canada with a lot of secrets and a lot of twists and turns along the way. And I'm very excited to share that with you. I am getting so many comments. Please update us about your biological father. Did he respond? No. My biological father has still not responded to my Facebook message or my friend request. I don't even know if he's active on Facebook, but then I see that he had 2 accounts added of my biological mother, one which wasn't there the first time that I was looking. Maybe he just doesn't care. Or, like a lot of people in the comments were theorizing, was that maybe my biological mother had 2 Facebook accounts and she just reactivated one. That is very plausible, and that could be a thing. People are asking me to reach out to her and hear her story. When I tell you guys, her and I do not have a relationship. I don't even have her added on my personal Facebook page. My own sister, my own biological mother, I do not have added. When I say we have no relationship, we have exactly that. No relationship. My point of view, she was 16, 17, and 18, and even prior to that, she ran away from home and wouldn't come back, and she was just meeting random guys all over the place and doing her own thing. I don't need to hear that side of her story. I don't need to hear it. People might disagree and say, hey, you're just not dealing with it, but I've set a boundary in my life, how she treated me, how she treated my entire family. This might change in the future, but as of right now, I still don't have that desire to hear her side. Maybe one day, but it's not today. I did find out that my biological father has a sister. So I shot her a message on Facebook and told her that I believe that her brother is my biological father, with a little bit of an explanation. No response yet. I'll keep you guys updated, and hopefully in the coming days to weeks, I get some sort of response and I can begin to see that side of my family. Did I tell my younger brother about our mother being who we thought was our older sister? I got this comment a lot on my TikTok. A lot, actually. Did I ever tell him? I did. There's a few reasons as to why I never talked about it. I do not like being kept in the dark, especially about something that pertains directly to me. So my brother, I told him the same time that I was talking to our mom that raised us, my mom. I was on FaceTime with my mom. I confronted her about our older sister being my biological mother. And when she confirmed it, I told her that I need to tell my brother. I had to. She got my brother into the room on FaceTime, and I told him in front of her. He knew something was up because we never do this. I told him, I said, I don't know if you know, but mom isn't our biological mom. Our biological mom is who we thought was our older sister, and I said her name. And he just kept saying, no, that you're making this up, like what's going on? And do you know when you hear when someone's about to cry, that frog in their throat, how words are hard? I could sense that coming, and he just left. My brother took it very hard, and the only reason why I'm sharing these details now is because he's better. He's doing better with it all. He's still processing things, but I didn't want to go too deep into his side because that's not my story to share. I value and respect people's boundaries, people's emotions, and how they feel. And I didn't want to overstep that or overshare something when somebody wasn't ready. When I tell you guys, no matter what, about my brother, my sister, no matter if it telling us that we're half siblings, they are my brother and sister. No matter where I am in the world, if I needed him, if I have something wrong, he will show up and be there for me. This is a true factual conversation my brother and I had. I said, let's get a matching tattoo, because no matter what happens in life, anything we learn about or do, we'll always have each other's backs. And we got a tattoo together. My forearm tattoo says my brother in Dutch, and he got his on his forearm as well, the same word, Mijn broer. I believe that's how it's pronounced. I can't speak Dutch, but it says my brother, and we've always had each other's backs. We played basketball together, we played volleyball together, we played rugby together, we worked together. My brother is my best friend, and I wanted to be the one who told him and let him know, and I wanted to value his time to process. My whole family, regardless of what DNA says, my sister and my brother are my sister and my brother. I don't care about it being deemed as a half sibling. They are my brother and my sister. To answer all those questions, I told my brother, but I respected his time. That's my baby brother. I would never keep something like this from him, because if he had to find out in a way that I did, and he knew that I know, that would be the biggest betrayal I could ever do to him. That's why I had to let him know as soon as I knew. That's my baby brother. My biological father and his sister, I've added them both on Facebook and sent them both a personal message via Facebook Messenger. Neither of them have replied. I know everybody's telling me, send a certified letter. he will definitely get it. I agree. He probably would receive that letter if I had an address. I'm very good at doing research on the internet, finding people's addresses and phone numbers via social media or other sites. Unfortunately, I've come across no address for my biological father. However, I found his sister's email, her business email. I shot her an email. Do I expect a response? Probably not. Because to be honest, as much as everybody's telling me to do all these things, send a certified letter, go to his address, all that stuff, I'm not entitled to it. I'm not entitled to any response from this individual. To him, I'm just another man in the world, regardless of what our DNA says. And I understand that and I respect it. So I don't want to be too invasive. I don't want to do things that would be potentially too much, because we have to look at the true facts. I'm 34 years old and he's never heard of me, never knew me, most likely. And he probably has zero intention to ever even know that he has a kid or learn about me. So as much as I want to have answers, for right now, I don't think I'm going to get them. I'll keep searching for an address. My last course of action will probably be a certified letter if I do find his address. But until then, I'll keep you guys updated on the correspondence via Facebook and or the email from his sister. But like I said, he doesn't owe me anything. I got a message on Facebook. I know what you're thinking. Was it my biological father? Was it his sister? It was neither. And arguably, this message I got was a little more strange than even hearing from them. I got a message from my biological mother. It started off with her saying, "My daughter saw your videos." Her daughter is who I grew up thinking was my niece, who turns out to be my youngest half-sister. And I want to start this off by saying, my youngest half-sister, my youngest half-brother, who we know as the kids of who I thought was my older sister, who is my biological mother, they are great kids. She is smart, she's passionate, she's creative, and same with her son. They are great people, and I do believe that my biological mother has tried very hard to be a great mother to them. 100% do I believe that. Does that negate all the prior stuff I've said? Absolutely not. But this message, it could have been done in a magnitude different ways. It could have been talking about the situation in a positive light or something, but instead, she was trying to discredit a few information inside of it. One being the way that she told my sister wasn't in a malicious way. And along with some other information in this letter that was talking about something that happened many, many years ago. This is why it's hard to believe anything you say. The person that messaged me many years ago sent me a message on Facebook saying that my older sister is my biological mother and she was viciously done by my uncle. And that's how I was conceived. I ignored this message because I thought it was just, it was a lie told people who had been drinking, all that kind of stuff. And now the question stems. Either you are a liar and you told them that, or you're telling everybody but your actual kids that you were their mother. Do you see where I'm going with this? Both options are terrible. Either you're lying terribly about something malicious and awful, which we have proven to be false, or two, you were just going around telling everybody, "Oh yeah, that's my kid. That's my son. That's my daughter." They're raised by their grandparents. So either way you look at it, your actions are negative. So when I talk about my personal biases in life and things that you've done and things that I've seen, I talk about all the lies over the years. Do I think you've changed as a person today? Maybe. At least I thought so until this message came through. In this message, there's a little bit towards the end talking about my biological father, saying that likely he doesn't know how to find my messages in his message requests, and also that she never told him about me. So she sent me screenshots of her messages with him, coincidentally on the exact same day where I found his name. My biological father does not have a family. He doesn't have kids. He doesn't have a wife. In his words of himself in these messages, he calls himself the habitual bachelor. That's his words. He has no idea that he's my biological father. So it looks like he is active on Facebook. Active enough to respond to a familiar face. Let's hope he does see my message requests and he learns that he has a son. I got a message from my biological father. He replied to my message that I sent in early November, telling him that he likely has a son he never knew existed, but I'm here, and who my mother is, when I was born, and that I found the connection. He replied. He said, "Hi there. I find this very unlikely. And you're right, I've never heard of you. But how could I have a DNA connection to you when I've never taken a DNA test?" That's when I immediately sent a message to the DNA angels. I said, "My biological father has replied. Can you help me word a reply that is easy to follow?" The answer was simple. I replied back to him. I said, "Thank you so much for the reply. To answer your question about the connection, it turns out that your biological mother and father, your mother had a brother who had a daughter, and his daughter took a DNA test. And that's where the connection to me stemmed from, which was able to build out the tree that ultimately resulted with you being my biological father." He replied a few minutes later. He said, "I'm just in shock. I can't believe this." And I said, "Yeah, tell me about it. I lived 34 years thinking my biological mother was my older sister." And that's when he responded saying, "You're probably a little too smart for your own good, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah, I can be. I just hate being lied to, and I wanted to find the truth about my life." And that's when he responded with, "I cannot stand liars. That's where I draw the line." He then said, "I wish I knew you 34 years ago." I think at this point, he was very shocked, confused, and didn't even know what to think. He responded back saying, "I think we should grab dinner sometime." He was very open, very sweet, and kind, and was not the responses I was expecting based off my biological mother. We moved our conversation from Facebook to text messaging, where he responded with, "Hey, I took a deep dive into your Facebook. I see you have kids. Just one?" I said, "No, I have two. I have a son and a daughter." And he responded with, "Wow, I aged a lot today." He threw a little bit of a joke in there. He said he aged a lot today, and I said, "Yeah, you went from being the habitual bachelor, single, to having a son you didn't know about, to then being a grandfather." And he's like, "Technically." That's when he said, "If I had known about you, I promise I would have been a part of your life." And to me, that's crazy. That this person would have wanted to be a part of my life and he had no idea. He is a single man, no kids, no girlfriend, living the bachelor life, but he heard that he has a kid and he's making an effort to want to learn about me. I've been talking to my biological father. I know everybody has a lot of questions. Did you meet? How was dinner? I live in the United States of America. He lives in Canada. So we are kind of far and not able to just jump and go grab dinner. But I am going back home on December 15th for a few days. And so we're going to try and make an effort to meet because he really wants to see me. And I think that's cool. I'm going to meet my biological father. Our conversations haven't been too crazy. We're just kind of getting over that hump of the shock of, finding each other. in this crazy story. And our conversations are mainly about, hey, what type of food do you like? What's your drink of choice? Stuff like that. It turns out we're very similar with our tastes of food and everything like that. We're both very basic. We like what we like. And turns out he's got green-gray eyes and I've got green eyes. Everybody wants to see a picture of him and me if there's similarities. I found a picture of myself and him that we look pretty close because there's not a lot of pictures of him on his Facebook. He's not a picture-taking person. So I'm gonna put one side by side right now so you guys can see us together. He keeps bringing up how he wishes he was a part of my life. We were talking about my sports that I played, and he says he wishes he could have watched. He also said something that was really cool. He says, I know you were raised by your mom and dad and your grandparents, whoever they are to you, they did a great job. He's like, you seem like a very smart young man with everything going in life. And I'm not saying I could have done better than them at all, but I would have liked the opportunity to see, you know, and I thought that was really nice because he never did get that opportunity to be a part of my life. And you know, whether or not he would have been a positive person or not, that's to be determined, and we can't theorize how that would look. But he keeps saying he knows it's late in the game, but he would like to get to know me, and that he doesn't know what our relationship looks like, if I will ever consider him a dad or a father, or if anything, he just wants to be a friend. And I thought that was really cool, and I'm excited to see how our friendship grows because he genuinely wants to be a part of my life, and I think that's really cool. What's the age differences between him and my biological mother? It's 1 year apart. They were both young when I was conceived, and it was a short little stint they had together, and the rest is history. He was 18 years old, and my biological mother was 17. So they were both young. Never thought that I would actually find my biological father, and here we are. Will my biological father take a DNA test to prove 100% that he is my father? He's open to it, but realistically, there is no reason for him to take one. And I'll explain it. Based off of my connections and who did a DNA test and who I'm matched with, there's no other explanation of who could be my biological father except if my father had a brother. That person could equally be my biological father as well. And speaking with him, he does not have a brother. Let's say he was born and had a brother or a twin that went to another family. It still wouldn't make that individual my father, because even if those scenarios were to happen, would have had to have been in contact with my biological mother at the same time. And considering she was friends with him on Facebook on 2 different accounts, kind of solidifies the theory of it being somebody else. So for the purposes of verification, sure, he could do a DNA test, but why would he when it's not needed? But like I said, he is open to it, but as of right now, there's no plan to do a DNA test. We're just going to be navigating a way to get to know one another and see how things progress between us as friends, and eventually him being a grandfather to my kids, which would be pretty cool for him and my kids. I met my biological father for the first time in person. I know everybody's been asking, how did that go? Was it weird? Was it awkward? What'd you guys talk about? Not gonna lie, it was very weird at first. You know, meeting somebody who you share 50% DNA with, who is technically your father, but has never been a part of your life. It's kind of weird. We got to the restaurant at the same time. The first thing my biological father said to me was, wow, you're a big guy. I'm 6 foot, 6'1", about 205 pounds, and he was about maybe 5'9", 5'10". So I was much bigger than him, and he was shocked. And the first thing he goes, you're probably the biggest person in my family. So I guess on that side of my family, they're very short. He apologizes that he's bleeding because he got a haircut and shaved, and he bought those cheap razors, and he shaved on the way to meet me. So he got himself shaving, and I thought that was like a quirky, cool, like kind of thing, you know. He was trying to make himself look very presentable and, you know, be ready to meet his biological son. We ordered some nachos, had a couple drinks, and we were just talking about things that we enjoyed passion-wise, trying to find if we had some similarities. And it was just a very easy conversation. It didn't feel forced. What was really cool to me was when he was talking about how he never had the opportunity to be my dad. And he also said again, he's like, I don't think I would have been a good father in comparison to your mom and dad that raised you. He's like, I truly believe that. I still would have liked the opportunity, but I understand that's neither here nor there. But one thing I do hope to be is someone who can maybe be a grandfather to my kids. And I thought that was really nice. He's not being anything pressuring about him being a part of my life as a father, because I made it very clear to him, I have a dad. I have a great dad who raised me, and he understands that. And I told him that doesn't change the fact that I do want a friendship with you. I want to get to know you, and I want my kids to eventually meet you. And he was ecstatic. He told me that him finding out that I had kids, and he said, don't take this the wrong way. He's like, I was very excited to know that I have a son, but the fact that I also have grandkids is amazing. He's proud. He's genuinely proud to have a family he never knew he had. He had somebody call him during our dinner, and he's like, hey, I can't talk right now. I'm with my son. And I heard the person in the background go, your son? And he hung up. And he told me that this news makes him want to be a better person. It makes him want to improve his life, and he has a goal, and he's gonna, look to be better. Things happen in life when you need them. And I think there was a stage in his life, maybe he needed me. He needed to know that he has someone in his life that is from his family tree, and that he has grandkids. Whatever the reason might be, he genuinely is happy, he's excited, and I will continue taking you guys along the journey of learning more about my biological father.